们接下来请 Tomas Diez 去讲讲他是如何去 hack 一个城市的。谢谢。
Okay, thank you. 你好吗? Thank you, Eric, for the. Well, my name is Tomas Diez. I'm an urban designer. I've been also a maker, I guess. I started Fab Lab Barcelona, which was one of the first Fab Labs in the world, but I think the first in the European Union 10 years ago. And now, since then, I've been working in trying to understand the connection between technology and design, and not only trying to understand it, but making it happen through projects. No? You know, okay. So our lab is based in the Institute for Advanced Architecture of Catalonia, which is based in Barcelona. As I said, we're one of the first Fab Labs. We do the coordination of a Fab Academy. We're doing other educational programs. I'm going to talk about a master specifically. We have been working with clients like Nike, IKEA, or the City Council of Barcelona, and we're working now on the Fab City Global Initiative. Our work somehow is multiscalar. It goes from the lab to reality, so we're trying to create things with machines through research at the local scale, but also we try to prototype and test in the city and also to connect with global networks, which is rather important. So when you Google Fab Lab Barcelona, you find this. You find students playing with robots, you find big buildings, prototyping space, and you find big prototypes. You can find some students making a car. So this is the kind of things that we think are possible within these spaces like Fab Labs. No? I guess that you know about them. So this is how it looks, our place. This is a kind of an old warehouse located in one of an industrial areas in Barcelona. We also have a green Fab Lab. This is located in the forest, just 20 minutes drive from the center of the city, where we do prototypes in trying to find the intersection between technology and nature. So this is part of a large project called Baldaura Labs, which we're running at the moment. And I always like to show this slide is an image of the mobile Fab Lab. Like 10 years ago, I was driving in the US with my two friends, Amy and Kenny. We were having a Fab Lab inside a trailer, and we were driving all over the country in the United States, and then we went to Burning Man, which is one of the craziest festivals on Earth, and we're teaching people how to prototype and make things. Some of the projects that we have been doing during the last years range from Internet of Things installation for the Hyperhabitat, for the Venice Biennale called Hyperhabitat. This is in Venice back in 2008. Another project that we have done is the Fab Lab House, which is a complete self-sufficient house made entirely in a Fab Lab, and that this was done back in 2010. Sorry, this was skipped. During the organization of the 10th Fab Lab conference in Barcelona in 2014, we did this big prototype, which is called the Solar Fab Condenser. We are making an open source restaurant in the city of Barcelona. This is a restaurant that you can go and eat, but you can also download the furniture and make it in your local lab. This is a large 3D printed bridge, 3D printing bridge that we have done together with Acciona. This is a complete 3D printed piece, let's say, well, a set of pieces put together in a park. And this is another project that we did at the scale of architecture, which is basically using natural materials to 3D print buildings in a way that you can actually reuse the materials when you want to tear down the building. So imagine when you want to demolish a big skyscraper, that you can demolish it and then put back the materials to print another skyscraper next to it. So this is the kind of architecture that we are imagining in the world. So as I say, we work at different scales. Now we do buildings, we do furniture, but we also do wearables. This is part of a research of a Fab Textiles project that we host inside our lab. And we don't only use the machines with materials, but also we create biomaterials, and we also play with embedded technologies. And I'm sure that you have seen a lot of that here in Shenzhen, a lot of crazy people doing things with wearable tech. I'm wanting to talk about a special project that started like this. It started in a kind of a prototyping way, just using some very basic tools like an Arduino and some jumper cables in order to create a sensor device that by the time it was doing very little and very imprecise measurements of air pollution or noise pollution and temperature and humidity. But a few years after of playing, we created this. It's the Smart Citizen platform and project, which is a sensor device that can actually measure the pollution in the city. Pollution is one of the big issues that we're having in cities. Not only air pollution, but actually noise pollution as well. And with this sensor, we want people, citizens, to start to measure what is the impact of the living in the city itself. So this is a kind of an Arduino-compatible device that can capture data, and then can use your internet connection to push data to a server, and this server is available to everyone. This kind of data could be different depending on the sensors. In this first iteration, we're using sensors that are basically related with the pollution in the city, and the data goes to this platform. In this platform, people can actually compare different type of data sets among other sensors, but also can make use of an API. And with this API, other applications can be developed on top. So instead of designing a product that is closed, we designed a product that is open for others to build on top of it, right? So this project has been also now supported by the European Union, especially for these 4 sub-projects. And especially I want to talk about the Making Sense project, in which we put sensors in the hands of few citizens in Barcelona in order to transform a situation in a plaza. This situation was basically that drunk people were going to drink in this plaza and was making a lot of noise in the night. And the students for 20 years were not able to prove this to anyone. So basically, we armed citizens with some of these sensors, specifically 25 sensors. And after 3 months of a pilot project, they were able to transform the policy making of the city. And now the whole plaza is being protected by the government, trying to stop people from drinking there. And now they're entering into a redesign of the plaza itself in collaboration with the citizens. So, and this is a video of it. I wanted to talk about some educational programs that we do in our institute. So, our students are architecture students and design students that they learn how to play with technology in this way. They learn how to make their own technology in order to make the things that they want. So our students, instead of designing buildings, they design the tools that make the buildings, for instance, like a large 3D printer to make the building itself. And in this case, it's Aldo and Chirag are designing a drone. The drone can fly all over the city, and then it can capture data, traffic data, but also can be used for farming in order to select which is the best places to do some special growth of crops. So we have architects that learn how to prototype, program, build microcontrollers and circuits, which is quite unique. This is basically, this is Lana, and she's an architect by training, and she left architecture, and now she runs fab labs in the world, but also does a lot of projects related with design, like prosthetics for refugees. This is another project that we do in this place, the Green Fab Lab, in which we use laser cutters to make structures, and then we use biomaterials in order to grow mushrooms or mycelium in this structure in order to make buildings that are as resistant as concrete buildings, but in this case made with natural materials. So this is the kind of prototyping that we do in our institute, as I said, in our lab. And especially now we're taking a big step further, which is creating a new master. And I'm really happy that you made all the presentation before, because it's the perfect framing for this new master, which is it's exactly trying to find ways to make money with what she does, basically. So we want students to learn, from this thinking, and trying to speculate in one hand, connect with the existing context that we have in the world, and also play with emergent technologies in order to create the future that we want, and not the futures that we are victims of. And in this master, especially we're trying to forecast. We try to make students to understand somehow how the past has worked, what we can design interventions to transform that past in the present, And that's how it can create possible futures. We don't like to talk only about speculation. We'd like to talk about possible speculation, sorry. It means that you engage with a speculation that actually you can make possible. And this is a different approach, I would say. So our students are encouraged to understand what is placemaking and making place. And this is basically through the idea of prototyping and test in the real world, prototyping at the neighborhood scale. Also understanding that the designs they do is for the real world, designing for the now. We have big challenges and need to be solved. And I think there are, the things that, for instance, very, very, very silly understanding, what we consider trash today might become a big, big, big resource tomorrow. And this is not a speculation. This is a possible speculation. And there's people like Dave Hackens that is doing projects like the precious plastic machines that uses this future speculation, designs a platform, in this case, low-cost machines that can be used by anyone or can be put together by anyone in order to set up a business based on the collection of trash and turning that trash into products. And this sounds very, very simple, but if you think about the power of distribution of tools that we have today, not only using internet, but using the whole range of maker spaces that are in the world and fab labs that are in the world, you can basically start a global campaign in days. And this can start to solve big, big, big problems that we have today as humanity. So, but we don't want to stay only in the idea of the product, on the idea of the piece, or the object. We teach our students to understand what they say, to understand a strategic vision, that the effects of a product doesn't have only the scale of a domestic scale, but also goes to the city scale, to the neighborhood, and to larger scales. And beyond that, understanding also that the way we create something has effects on other systems, which are our supply chains for making something, where it's made, which other systems it affects, and what happens after it gets to the end of its life, for instance. No? So at the same time, we want to connect that with a global mindset. And I want to finish with this because all this research and experimentation that we do, which is very based on practice, is connected with real-world projects that are ongoing. And in this case, our global mindset is related to this project that is quite ambitious. And Eric was talking about Blade Runner 2049. So we're talking about Fab City 2054. It means that Fab City is a project that is trying to make cities to produce everything they consume by 2054. And that's everything. Produce locally energy, produce locally food, and produce locally everything that we need in order to sustain life in cities. And this is a project that is trying to change a paradigm of a linear production in which we live today, in which a lot of things are made in Asia, and it's like a lot of things are made in China and sent all over the world. I guess you know that. But also that has a lot of consequences. They have social consequences and environmental consequences. We want to change that model in which we move atoms around the world, and we want to move only bits of information, and then keep the atoms locally, keep the atoms in cities, and build that infrastructure that needs, let's say, a dramatic paradigm shift on how things work today, which comes from if we think about the Industrial Revolution, is only 150 years old. This is nothing in comparison with the lifespan of humanity. So design processes as well change. I mean, this is not only about designing an object to be reproduced millions of times and then develop marketing strategies for people to think that they need to buy this thing and then they buy it, but actually is designing on demand. Probably the designer start to merge with the consumer, and then we start to see how they both interact and in some cases becomes the same person. Design for circularity, design to source materials to something that you want to make as close as possible to where it's consumed. And this is another paradigm that is we're trying to change. So in order to make this happen, we are not speculating for things that actually don't exist. These are existing trends like domestic 3D printing or the Industry 4.0 that when connected together, we can start to think of a new type of ecosystem for local production. In this case, you can make things at your house with your 3D printer. You can do things in your neighborhood with your Fab Lab, or you can do things in your city with flexible factories. And you will still supply some things that are at the global scale. But basically, this changed dramatically how we conceive the distribution of products, which is not only about putting it in a shipping container, but also start to play with large-scale logistics and probably large amounts of AI working together in order to do more context-aware design and production of things that you need to use in your everyday life, right? So we do this by prototyping. In this case, we have in Barcelona, in our neighborhood, which is where we are located in Fabla, Barcelona, the Poblenou, what we call the Fab City prototype, or the Maker District. So in the whole area of Barcelona, we have an ecosystem of maker spaces, on research centers about trash, urban orchards, and other institutions of research and production that are trying to work together on prototyping this city of a future that is locally productive. And this is happening with the support of the City Council of Barcelona. This is a video that I'm going to skip, but this, it's called the Made Again Challenge, and you can check it in the YouTube or online or in Weibo, I guess. And it's a workshop that we did with IKEA designers last summer on trying to prototype the circular production of IKEA in their future business. So we are changing a model, again, as I said, in which cities import products and produce trash. We call it the PITO model, P-I-T-O, to the DIDO model, which means that everything that cities need is produced locally, but whatever travels in the world is only information. And this is called the DIDO model. As I say, this comes from a challenge that we launched back in 2014 in Barcelona, when the mayor of Barcelona pressed a button that started a countdown of 40 years. So from 2014 to 2054, cities should produce everything they consume locally. And how we do that? So this is our strategy. You know, making is not only about making things just because you want to make things, but you have to think about the kind of communities you want to make, how you make place through these things, or not, in some cases. So we need to build new skills and new training. So you probably don't want to be trained to work for the industries of the past. So you need to learn probably how to learn instead of being just focused on learning something in a very disciplinary way. We want to think about which is the kind of technology you want to create also, if you have the power of creating that technology, and also if you want to open it or not. If you go or not opening, then you probably are going to be trapped in the existing system. If you open it, you multiply the possibilities for that thing to grow and to evolve and collaborate with other people. Also, this is related to the data platforms that we want to create as well. So right now, any product, object, or thing that we create cannot be considered to have a digital life. And you want to think about that digital life as an enabler of the product itself, but also as an enabler for the users that you are doing or that you are creating with that product or intervention. And finally, we're doing this working with a global network. These are 18 cities that today are part of a Fab City Global Initiative with the support of a government. Yesterday, the city of Paris, which is part of a Fab City network, was awarded by as the European Capital of Innovation, thanks to their proposal centered on Fab City and the Fab City project. And this is a work that we are continuing doing. We are working with Shenzhen very closely, with Eric, with the Polytechnic, and we want to keep it doing for the coming years to achieve the goal of 2054. If you want to learn more, you can go to these websites or find me in the internet, and I'm very happy that you hear me. Thank you.
Thanks, Tomas. 有提问的吗？
Hi, good day. You say that the city would be self-sustaining by producing their own raw materials, right? But like some of the raw materials like minerals and plants that have to be grown in different parts of the world, so how would that fit into your model? Thank you.
Thank you. I think that we live in some paradigms that are, again, depending on the lifespan that you understand of those things, you will change your, I would say, perspective. So if you think about today, if we remove everything that is made out of oil from this room, I would say that most of us will be naked. You won't have where to be sitting. We won't have anything, probably. If you remove the oil, we had only been using oil for 100 years, more or less, 120 years, if you think about it. It's really, really a young material, and actually we're sustaining our entire life based on oil. At the same way, I imagine that most of the things that we understand that today we cannot live without, they will evolve. So for instance, you talk probably about food. So we are based on animal protein. And that's very silly because we are eating animals, which is one of a very cruel thing. But at the same time, we are compromising the future of the planet based on the animal industries. And it's very unhealthy. It's proven that it's very unhealthy. So we have been entering in this kind of an endless cycle of being depending on things that actually are not inherited, attached to us. So we can live without oil. We live, thousands of years without oil. Just only the last 120 years we live with oil. We were eating much less animal protein. And now, thanks to the industrialization of the food industries, we're eating a lot of animal proteins. So imagine that you can grow your own meats. And that probably doesn't need to use extension of land in Brazil in order to grow cows, and then use a lot of water to kill the cows and clean the meat, and then use a lot of fossil fuels to ship the meat to the McDonald's, and then you eat the McDonald's burger. So these kind of stupid changes that we have been created are totally dismountable. And this is the kind of things that we want to change. So I think it's possible to cut this dependence of these large supply chains that cities have. If you think a city, a metaphor would be, it's like the octopus? It's like an octopus. It's an organism that have these long tentacles. It's not only limited to its physical boundaries, but it has tentacles, and it's consuming resources from other places, no? Energy, food, things that people consume, and so on. So we want to reduce the size of these tentacles, and sometimes, in some point, cut them, and just make it very self-sustainable. And make that these tentacles are more like neurons connected by neurotransmitters. So we instead of being like these animals consuming things, we understand that the cities are more like brains in which, if you think like the planet would be a global brain of cities connected, creating knowledge to make this happen. We think that's possible. I think that we need technology. I think that one of the things that we cannot pretend that we didn't create all of this. So we probably needed oil to create technology that is going to help us to get rid of oil. You know what I mean? So we're probably going to be using technology that is going to help us to do things in a way that probably in some point we won't need technology. That's possible. And that's the kind of things that we want our students to imagine, that everything is possible. And we are trapped into very dogmatic understanding of the world. And then, this is very recent if you think about it.
Okay, thanks, Tomas. I want to leave a final question to myself. Like you were saying that the Fab City has been promoted in Shenzhen a few years ago, but it has been slow in recent years. Is there any specific topic or suggestions how we can move on with Fab City in Shenzhen? Is there any proposals? I think since we are working with Shenzhen Polytech, there's a lot of things we can do with professors and the students here.
Yeah, I think that, I was having a meeting this morning, and one of the things we want to do is to bring not only people from the Fab City Collective in Barcelona, but from the world. Okay. And I think that we have a lot to learn from Shenzhen. But at the same time, I think that Shenzhen, it would be interesting to try in Shenzhen this approach of the Fab City prototype. Mm-hmm. Probably do a study and understand which area of the city it will be interesting to develop a prototype of these new cycles of materials and the new testing of technologies. And also, super interesting is the relationship between people and technology, and people between people through technology as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
非常感谢大家今天上午。